Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to my regular Wednesday night live stream. Today I have a fantastic guest, but before I introduce him, as is with my usual tradition, I'm going to read a Bible verse and then we're going to get into it. This is from the book of Revelations, chapter 7, verses 9 to 10. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. I have today the fantastic Ben Mendelsohn, the Australian, and you can correct my titling here, the Australian representative of Jews for Jesus.
That'll work. That'll be fine.
How are you? Thank you for doing
this.
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
Well, for those who don't know, I came across Bob because the church I go to hosted him, and he did a fantastic testimonial, among other things. Do you want to start the conversation today with that? How you went from coming from a strictly Orthodox Jewish background to then becoming a Jew for Christ, a Jew for Jesus?
Yeah, you take us wherever you want to take us. I'm happy to go there. That I would be in Australia on a podcast, whatever that would be in 1971, whatever a computer is in 1971. 50 years ago next month, I was a 19-year-old hippie hitchhiking around the United States, looking for love in all the wrong places. I was looking for meaning and relevance. I was an Orthodox Jew. And for me, that meant what I don't do, which is about foods, what I do, which is about observing certain rituals and prayers that I would say, diet and days, those were big, but also this whole ethic of being a Jew, what I wasn't, which was whatever you are, those Christian people. I was an academic, I was at university, but I just couldn't get my head together, as we called it. So in 1971, I dropped, it's 1970, I dropped out, hitchhiked around the US, and I encountered, or rather was encountered by some of those people, Jesus freaks, as we called them. And they surrounded me. I mean, really think about it. There were 4 fellows on Atlanta, Georgia's Peachtree Street, 4 guys versus 1 guy. I mean, that's not even smart in any field, unless you're playing rugby, I suppose. But this was a really a wicked moment in my history as these fellows surrounded and harassed me. They did everything wrong. If there were a book called How Not to Tell What You Believe to Jewish People, every chapter would be something from that episode. Even so, 2 months later, as I was approached by a couple young people who didn't surround me, but just offered me some information, would you like to come here and talk? And I sat down and said, I'm Jewish, go ahead. Because I knew what they wanted to do, convert me to their blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. I'd seen the movies. And they opened up the Bible, and I won the Bible battle because I was Orthodox. I knew my stuff, and they'd been believers 4 months. They didn't know much at all, but they knew the living God, and they had a personal relationship with him. That was mind-boggling. They gave me a copy of, actually, they encouraged me to get a copy of the Newer Testament. I went back where I was staying, and there was a girl there who was reading hers. And I started reading the St. Matthew and St. Mark and St. John. I thought they were all Catholics. I had no idea how Jewish that book was. But beyond the Jewishness of the Newer Testament, I found in there the consummate hippie, the man of peace and love and meaning and relevance. And that's what I wanted. So I gave my life to Jesus just 3 days later. To the disappointment, shall I say, chagrin, to the pain of my mom, dad, and all kinds of other folks in the Jewish community.
That's very telling. And it's not just a Jewish thing. I find that like a Christian would respond the same if it was their child becoming an atheist, a Muslim, a Christian, or Jew, that would be an extreme reaction. But I believe that would happen anyway. But did you find that you were? Some people say this about Jewish people, that were you indoctrinated to hate Christians or indoctrinated to hate
No,
Jesus or not? No. So it
no,
wasn't.
no,
It
no. I
wasn't
didn't.
like that. No.
No, we didn't hate Jesus. We just knew nothing about him.
Yeah.
Most Christians, if I said, "Do you hate Mohammed or Mohammedans?" you would say, "No." Do you know anything about the Quran? No, most Christians would say. It's not an indoctrination of hatred, but it is a perpetuation of ignorance. I think most
Yeah.
people are ignorant of anything outside themselves, whether it's economic or whether it's political or whether it's religious, etc.
Can you help me with some titles? What's the difference, say, between? Okay, so what's his name? Ben Shapiro calls himself an Orthodox Jew, but Dennis Prager calls himself a religious Jew. How would you differentiate the two? Do you know the difference, or are they
No,
playing with semantics?
they're playing with semantics. Yeah, there
Oh, they
are
are.
categories,
Okay. Yeah.
and they're both very good at semantics. Prager radio show, Shapiro internet, much more comfortable there. Orthodox, conservative,
They're great.
reform. Those are the three main in the US. Orthodox liberal is what we would say in Australia and in Britain. So Orthodox means probably
observing the rules.
Observant, yeah. But again, look, you can go to an Orthodox synagogue because that's where your dad went or your grandparents built the place. And I guess I don't really care where I go, but that's where I'll go. And I'm an insurance salesman, so I'll work the crowd and I'll get the best of the deal, right? Or I'm a real estate guy and they seem to be some people I can market my craft to, or I'm an artist or whatever it is. And I'll, but of course, I'm Orthodox, so I believe a little something about this side of the religion, and I'm Reform in America or liberal here, and so I'm less concerned about all the religious practices. But I'm still going to work the crowd if I'm a real estate agent. I'm still going to work the crowd if I'm an insurance man, or I'm there because my granddaddy started the place. There are all kinds of reasons. Whereas Christians attend church because, generally speaking, that's the religion either in which they grew or to which they've given themselves theologically. That is, they believe along the same lines. It's more creedal. Judaism is less creedal and more deedal.
Sorry, what's creedal mean?
Creedal having to do with creed, having to do with what you believe.
Sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
Okay.
What I believe,
rather than deeds.
Rather than deeds.
Sorry. Yeah. No, what were you going to say? What I believe.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, because I felt like I interrupted.
Well, that's where a lot of Christians choose their church. They speak in tongues. Oh, they're happy clappy. Oh, they are theologically reformed. Oh, those people are. So we choose on the basis of, well, they have communion right to left. They take bread. They don't take bread. They baptize left to right. Whatever it is. Those are the definitions. They're exclusive brethren. They're open brethren. We choose on the basis of theology more than on the basis of action, generally in the Christian world.
I understand that. I understand what you're saying. It does bother me, I'm not going to lie, as someone who identifies as, a Protestant Christian. I pretty much tell people I'm non-denominational because I don't like the tongues, and then I get in trouble for saying that. I don't like the rituals. I don't think that all the rituals and the dressing, say, of the Catholic Church is necessary. I don't understand it because Jesus, when he died on the cross for us, all of the ritualistic dressing isn't really required. You just have to wear your faith on your heart. But that's just an opinion I have. I find that's why I think we'll never be one in Christ until we're the bridegroom of Christ. What are your thoughts on that?
This week is Holy Week in the Eastern Orthodox tradition.
Okay.
That happened already in the Western tradition. Usually the Eastern and the Jewish line up together, but this
Okay.
year they're pretty segregated. Very interesting. In the art world, this may be something that some of your folks will be interested in. In the art world, paintings, or they call them icons of Christ, show the face of Jesus, and then either one or two fingers up. You think, wait a minute, what's the difference between one and two? If one finger with the thumb touching the middle finger, then it has to do with how many sent in the deity, in the Godhead. The Father sent the Son and the Spirit, which is the Eastern view. In the Western view, you'll see Jesus with two fingers up, almost like a hippie showing a peace sign. And it has to do with the Father and the Son sending the Spirit. And so that is a way to know whether it came from Ukraine or it came from which side of Constantinople or it came from Rome. And so, in light of your comment, I think you're right. The unity that God wants for his people, it has been divided since that 4th century. It's going to keep being divided. Now, there are times when we sweep together and sweep, not sleep, we sweep together. And there are times when we join forces against, brutality or against racism or something like that. But to be united in Christ the way that I think God wants us to be, yeah, when he comes.
When he cometh, when he cometh. Yeah. I wanted to know about like what sort of reaction resulted. Oh, well, actually, I wanted to ask you: is Hasidic the same as Orthodox?
It's a wing of Orthodoxy. It's ultra Orthodox.
Okay.
Chassid means mercy.
Chesed.
It's like Amish. Yeah, it's the ultra Orthodox wing, and there are subsets within that. The Lubavitcher and the Setmar. Look, where there's religion, there's going to be boundaries, and there are going to be boundaries against others in the same similar boundary.
So when you became
like Presbyterian, it's
Anglican,
that Catholic. How close are they? They're close.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. I completely understand that. And even it exists in Islam. I didn't think it did until I researched it, and then I realized, oh, there are sects. Yeah. So how was the response from your family? Because you now know the Lord. You now know Jesus lives and he's in our hearts and he's knocking on that door. And your family believes, I suppose, rightfully so, according to their faith and their pride, that you've maybe lost your way, whereas, because to be a religious Jew also means to be ethnically Jewish. They're probably sad. What were the conversations like in the years when because you said 3 days later, boom, you were a Christian after those people chatted with you. So what was the conversations like with family?
Yeah. I would have said that I became a Christian. I think I would have used that term. And that meant in those days, and certainly meant to my family, that I was no longer a Jew.
Religiously.
However, Jewish, whatever. I'm not, whether it's a religion, a culture, an ethnicity, a practice, it doesn't matter. It's all of those.
Oh.
So
okay.
I lost my family. I lost my friends. I lost out. And that's painful. And they lost their son and their brother, and that was painful for them. So I get it. And it was a tough call for everyone. The conversations were really caustic and not pleasant at all. I was an ignorant 19-year-old. I'm still ignorant, but I'm older. My mom passed in 2004, dad in 2005, brother just a few years ago.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Look, the world goes on, and mom and dad never said yes to Jesus, both of whom I had great conversations with. about the gospel, about who Jesus is. It's a tough call for them. Look, Mom said, I'll remember this one. She said, one day I just want you and Rabbi Mandel, he was the synagogue rabbi, to get together, have a debate, and then we'll know. I said, who's going to judge the debate? Who's going to decide who wins and who loses? Well, I don't know, she said. And I said, that's the debate that's been waging for 2 millennia between rabbis and Jews like me who believe in Jesus. And you and I and the rabbi are not going to solve that. I wish we could.
So it never came to pass, the debate.
There was no debate. There have been debates, and you can find them online on YouTube between Michael Brown, say, and other rabbis, like one that he goes up against with some regularity. But debates, what do they do? And except that they lock in the beliefs of those who are listening rather than sway people towards another angle, generally speaking.
And I was talking to someone on the phone recently, and I made a comment, and he was very quick to correct me, and I was wondering whether you could elaborate, because it's related to the difference, because I said that Jews for Jesus and Messianic Jews must be the same thing, and he said no, it's not.
Well, he's wrong, because they're the same.
Oh. I was going to get you to elaborate and tell me like the distinction here. But, wow, we're very ignorant, aren't we?
No, you're fine. A Messianic Jew is a Jew who believes Jesus is the Messiah. Gotcha. Jews for Jesus is an organization, and maybe that's what he was saying, that we're an organization and therefore a subset of the category called Messianic Jews. Okay, if that's where he wants to go. But really, a Messianic Jew is a Jew who believes in Jesus. Now, of interest, if this goes to Israel, and I don't know how far your podcast goes, in Israel, send it off. In Israel, many Jewish people use the term Messianic Jew to talk about Jews who are a little off. What are they off about? They believe they can bring the coming of Messiah. It's not the same term as a Messianic Jew in yours and my vocabulary. Baruch Goldstein was a Messianic Jew, according to them. Goldstein was the one who shot and killed the prime minister in November 4th, 1995. And there he was trying to be Rabin. He shot and killed Rabin. Why? Because he wanted to usher in Messiah, and Rabin was giving away land to the Arabs. So Baruch Goldstein thought that he should do that. And so that's the view of many Israeli Jews, that when you use the term Yehudim Meshichim, Messianic Jews, that it's those guys, the crazy guys who want to build a third temple and want to kill all the Arabs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, otherwise, a Jew who believes in Jesus and a Messianic Jew, same thing. No difference in philosophy, theology. It's the same.
Okay, no, that's good to have clarification on that. I just thought I'd ask an expert, and I have you here, so why not? Okay, well, what about regarding marriage? Like, once a Jewish fellow becomes a born-again Christian, how does that fare with like in terms of getting a wife? Like, do you find a Christian wife, or are you married to a Jewish woman? Like, what occurred after the fact?
Let's back up to the terminology. I wonder if I said it. I don't think so. No. That a Jew comes to believe in Jesus as the Messiah. I don't think I said, and maybe I did, and if so, it's an accident. A Jew who becomes a Christian.
You're not a Christian?
Because to a Jew, Christian means a non-Jew. So
Oh, okay.
I'm using the term because to a Jewish person, Billy Graham and Billy Slater are the same. They're both them. Billy the Kid, they're all Gentiles, and all Gentiles believe in Jesus to a Jew. Now, whether they ever believe or don't believe doesn't matter. Scott Morrison and Scott Joplin, they're all the same. They're just them. See? And so to a Jew, if I say I became a Christian, it means I stopped being a Jew, which I never
I
did.
understand what you're saying. No.
Okay. So we use the term completed Jew, fulfilled Jew, Messianic Jew, a Jew who's found Jesus, a Jew who follows Messiah, not a Jew who follows Christianity. See, it's not another religion.
I understand. I understand.
Okay. Okay.
It feels, however, that technically you love Jesus as I do, that you read the Bible, the New Testament, with respect and admiration, and that you're fulfilled by it. To me, it sounds like you technically are a Christian. You just avoid the label
The term
for pleasing.
Christian
Okay.
it was used in a derogation. It was used in derogatory term in Antioch in Acts chapter 11. I have no problem with derogation. Go ahead and label me anything that's derogatory. However, for a Jew to say I'm a Christian is to say to other Jews, you're right. When you accept Jesus, you'll quit being a Jew, which is totally not true.
But it can't be true, because I know you corrected me earlier, but I'm going to say it again, despite the fact that you did correct me earlier. Heritage-wise, you can't erase that. That's like
Right.
it's like a man becoming a woman. He's not really a woman. Like you're still a Jew even through your ethnicity, despite the label of being a Christian, which you're not.
Now,
you're a Jew for Jesus,
and I get it, but the Jewish community doesn't get it.
Okay, sorry, that's your point.
For their
Sorry,
sake, I get to use their terms.
I understand.
And
okay.
Look, a lot of people in the church
I'm learning.
don't get it. A lot of people in the church don't get it. And they think, once you accept Christ, you're no longer Jewish. Have a ham sandwich. See you at church on Sunday, not on Saturday. That kind of thing. A real disregard of cultural realities. So that when the Lutherans went out into the bush, into the Northern Territory in the 1930s, when that happened, what did they do? They made all the Aborigines to change their names to Ezekiel and Isaiah and all these other names, and to wear ties and to come to church on Sunday. Now that's cultural disregard. And what about going into tribal Africa, where a man has 3 wives, and those wives each have one particular husband, and then they say, well, come and accept Jesus Christ. Okay, he does. And then they say, now you've got to divorce 2 of your wives. Well, if you do that, you are sending those women into ignominy and into painful social disregard. You just can't do that. Well, the Bible says, So sometimes cultural imposition of the ham and cheese sandwich at the church potluck on Sunday is not good for a Jew. All that to begin to answer your question, which is, do we marry Jews? Yeah, a lot of Jewish people will marry a Jew in Christ, and so that happens. A lot of Jewish people today don't marry Jews, whether in church or outside the church. So you go to Double Bay and you find a Jew, and his parents are fully Jewish, and he's dating a Chinese girl. He doesn't care if she's Jewish. He loves her. He met her at uni, or they're at the doctor's office together, or whatever. Religion is much less important in the modern day than it was 50 years ago.
Religion shouldn't be important at all, but a relationship with Jesus Christ should be essential. Sorry, I'm not, because I don't like to call myself religious. I don't like organized religion. Okay, cool. So, well, that's been very educational so far. You're definitely answering a lot of my questions, and I appreciate it. So how did you wind up in this neck of the woods, Australia?
I think everybody took one step back, and therefore I was volunteering. I think that's how this worked. I was in Washington, D.C. in October 1994. My wife and kids and I, 3 kids, we were there. And an opportunity arose for someone from our staff to come to Australia and suss out the possibility of our having an organization post here. So I think I love to travel, and I did. And my wife and I came, and we were here for 10 days. And everywhere we went, we were looking for what might be called in the book of Acts, chapter 16, a Macedonian call. Was there anyone here saying, come over and help us? Well, actually, it was pretty constant through those 10 days that people were saying, we could use you. Come here. We've got lots of Jews. We need to hear the gospel. Come on, bring it on. And so I started saying, hey, this would be great. I could find some people, maybe some Jews from Australia who love the Lord, and I could disciple them or mentor them from afar. And it wasn't more than 3 years later that God was tapping me on the shoulder and saying, that was you I was calling here.
Bit of a Jonah situation, only you kind of listened. You didn't run away.
Kind of. Yeah. So it was August 98. My wife and I moved here with the 3 kids. And now 2 of the kids have gone back to the U.S. and one of them is still here, just 500 meters from us, right over there.
Oh, lovely. That's good. You have one to get your fix.
And, yeah.
Go.
2 grandsons here, 3 grandchildren in the U.S. Since COVID hit, we haven't been back there.
Oh my gosh, how hard.
You know, how often can you be on FaceTime and it satisfies? Not enough. You got to hug them. You got to be there. You got to.
It's not the same, is it?
No, very different.
Yeah.
But that's what we got.
Yes, but God will hopefully give Christians the ability to travel again, where we won't need to have like COVID passports and all that crap. Hopefully, something comes our way. Hopefully, maybe not. Can I ask you a question regarding what I said earlier about all the dressing and all the ritualistic stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Jewish people do this as well, and Jewish people. Yeah, and I hope that was okay that I said that. I didn't mean to be disrespectful, but I do find it unnecessary. I'm also very much anti-Catholicism, and I came from that faith. My mother's Colombian, my father is Spanish, 2 very Catholic nations, and my mother became a born-again Christian when she realized that, why am I telling a man behind a screen to, do this and to do that and to work my way up into heaven when he himself is like a sinner? Like, just these logistical things and all of this kind of stuff. And so the dressing and all the cultural stuff, it's pretty, like it is pretty, and you demonstrated some at church, and I saw it and I thought it was beautiful. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. I just find it unnecessary. But I don't think it's a sin either to partake in it, but I do find it unnecessary. You don't need to wear a cross. You don't need to wear a hijab. You don't need to wear a scarf. You don't need to do any of that as long as your faith is in your heart. Do you have a comment on what I've just said?
Sometimes traditions keep us more than we keep them. And it is from my youth, from my birth, I was born a Jew. 8 days later, I was circumcised a Jew. That mark is a trapping. It's a constant. It's with me, whatever I do. So is that an external? Yeah. Is it an external that matters? It doesn't not matter. It keeps me on the straight and narrow. I know who I am, and I know who I'm not as a result of that one moment when I was 8 days old. Interestingly, the highest amount in a male of vitamin K is on his 8th day. Vitamin K, the vitamin that coagulates blood.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah.
On his 8th day. How would Abraham have known that? He didn't. this was why God said do it on the 8th day. Fascinating. Trappings. Even the word trapping sounds like a trap, and therefore
I didn't say trappings.
Okay. Okay.
No, sorry, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Sounds like a trap and therefore a bad thing. I find rituals to be very wonderful if you know to whom you're speaking, about whom you're speaking, with whom you're speaking, and appreciating the connection. I think if there's no connection, then it's just empty words, and empty words are a waste of time. If, however, you've got a real substantive relationship with the one on the other side of Agnus Dei, or Kyrie eleison, o lo que podemos decir en inglés o en español. Yeah, right. Whatever we want to say towards him, if we have a connection, then there's not a waste at all. In fact, everybody who says they don't believe in formal prayers, everybody who says they do believe in formal prayers, doesn't matter. If you record them over the course of a year, your prayer times, you will find that you say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Why is that? Because we are all formal in our form of conversation with God. That's how we do it. People who are the most liberal, hallelujah, I just sing Jesus, hallelujah, I just sing Jesus. They'll say that 10 times in the same morning. They'll say that every morning over the course of a 30-day month. Hallelujah, I just love you, Jesus. And that's their liturgy. So to say we don't need liturgy, okay, but we all go to it. We all have it. That's just the way humans perform. What about the accoutrements of the, like you said, the cross or the rosary beads or anything like that? No, you don't need it. In the Jewish world, we have the mezuzah, the little jewelry piece at the door.
Oh, yes, I've seen that. And you have like a white towel with 3 blue stripes.
Well, that's the prayer shawl.
Oh,
that's
okay.
The prayer shawl. I'm talking about a piece of metal or a piece of wood or a piece of a little jewelry piece at the door by which we acknowledge God when we come in or when we go out.
Gotcha.
And is that a ritual? Yeah. Does it mean anything? Not if you don't believe, but if you do believe and you really care to remember on your way in, on your way out, that God is with you, that's a holy thing. That's a great thing. So I'm not anti-traditions at all. There's the tradition of Rosh Hashanah, the traditions of Passover, the traditions of Hanukkah. I love traditions, but I don't keep traditions. Traditions keep me.
I understand what you're saying. That's lovely. You said Hanukkah? That's not actually biblical. Do you also observe then the what's the word? Is it Talmud?
Talmud is a book.
Sorry. It is. Is that Jewish, or am I thinking of? Is that the Islamic one? Because I get them mixed up with.
No, Talmud is definitely Jewish. You're
yeah.
Okay.
So do you keep that?
Well, no, keep. That's not.
Do you observe it? Do you observe it?
Right. No, Talmud is a massive tome of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of mostly story.
And history.
Mostly stories. And I've got my own copy, but do I observe it? Most of Talmudic law, because there's law, there's two parts of Talmud. Agadah, which is story, and halakha, meaning precedential law, rulings, legal stuff. When Jesus said, "You've heard it said, but I say unto you," he's talking about Talmudic law. He's not
I know that.
He's not talking about biblical written law. Because then he would have said, you've seen it written, or as it is written. What he said was, you've heard it said. And that was the oral law that is the Talmud itself. Composed of Mishnah and Gemara, the two major sections, written over a course of several hundred years, but it's the oral law. So do I observe it? No, most of the time, no. Hanukkah, the one that springboarded the conversation, is a holiday that Jesus noted, and John wrote in John chapter 10. It was in verse 22. It was the Feast of Dedication, and Jesus was at the temple in Jerusalem. Feast of Chanukah means dedication.
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize it was so close to the time of Jesus. I thought Hanukkah came later. I don't know why I thought that. It was something about like candles that continue to burn or something. Sorry?
Almost 200 years before Jesus was noting it and celebrating, and in John 10 proclaiming himself as deity.
There you go. Yeah. I'm sorry about before. I didn't mean, for anyone watching, I didn't mean to mix up Talmud with Hadith. That's what I was doing. I had a mind fart for a second.
Okay. Is anybody going to judge you? You don't need them.
No, it was just a momentary silliness. Well, I've interviewed a Jewish fella some time ago, and I raised this to him, and I hope it's okay with you that I raise it as well. I heard, I guess you won't care because you don't really observe it, so it's actually fine that I ask you. I heard and researched that the things that make up the Talmud are actually not that Jewish. It's predominantly Pharisaic influenced. What would you say to that?
That's an odd way to make the Pharisaic rulings not Jewish. They are. Well,
I probably shouldn't have said that, but it is Pharisaic.
Well, if we say there are Pharisees and Essenes and Sadducees and Herodians, the subsets of the Jewish people in the first century, Talmud would probably fit the category of Pharisaic Judaism more than any of the others, because they're the ones that won in 70 CE, AD 70, and certainly 135 CE. They're the ones that wrote the rules of Judaism. There was no Sadducees anymore. There was no Sanhedrin anymore. So I guess that may be what he was saying. Pharisaic Judaism is that which won in the controversy between the different groups. But there are always different groups.
Of course.
Jacob Neusner is a very famous modern scholar and academic and Jewish. And he wrote a book a year for probably 20 years, probably just cut and paste from his students' PhD information. But he wrote the book Judaisms and Their Messiahs. And when I read that, it was so clarifying that there is no monolith of Jewish thought. And there wasn't in the first century. There wasn't in the Maccabean and Hasmonean times. There wasn't in the time of Moses. You read Moses, and then he comes up and says, hey, stop beating each other. And the Jewish guy says, who made you the boss and ruler over us? Are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian yesterday? So there's always been a divide between the different groups within Judaism. So when we talk about Orthodox and conservative and liberal Jews, between the ultra Orthodox of the Haredi, the Lubavitcher, the Satmar, and the ultra Reform, who are more like Reconstructionists or even Unitarian people in the Christian or Christianized world, there's a great continuum that sometimes the Orthodox won't even admit that a Reconstructionist Jew is a Jew. There's great controversy between them.
pity, but I guess again, it's not just a Jew thing.
That's right.
There's so much split and divide in so many different demographics. I did want to ask you about I lost it. Give me a sec. Oh, that's right. I remember. Rewind. So one of my favorite documentarians is a Danish Jewish fellow named Simka Jacobovici. Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay. So Simka...
He probably hasn't heard of me either, so we're probably even.
Well, what I like about him, I mean, I didn't like one of his documentaries. I was trying to find the body of Christ. I'm like, that's silly. Like, he ascended into heaven like Elijah. Like, you wouldn't find that. So I found that dumb. But one of his documentaries that I really liked was about the Spanish Jews. So I think he meant Sephardic. I'm half Spanish. I'm not Jewish. I've had a DNA test, but I do find that story super interesting. So there's like Sephardic Jews, and there's plenty of them still in Spain, and then there's some in Greece, and there's a couple in Colombia. They're sort of scattered, but there are so many different types of tribes. I was wondering whether you know your own. I find that stuff super interesting. I love those shows, Who Do You Think You Are? And I don't know, those sorts of shows about heritage. Do you know where you are? Because I know that the Cohen line is like the priest line, and the Sephardic Jews have been around since forever. They say that the Ashkenazi Jews are a bit newer. I don't know what that means, but like, well, do you know what you are in terms of that particular lineage? I find that stuff so fascinating.
Confundido.
Muy.
All right. There are different layers that are being laid on top of each other. So let me see if I can unpack this for you.
Go ahead, please educate me.
All right. So we were talking about religious subdivisions, Pharisees, Sadducees, Then there's the geographical divides that take place. So in 70, so think about it. In 722 BC, the Assyrians captured the top 10 tribes of the Jewish people. Some people say they became the lost tribes of Israel. They were never lost. They're not lost. They went up to Assyria, and it wasn't long before a generation or two, and the Assyrians caused these, what we would call today Jews, to intermarry with the Assyrians. Then they were sent back down to the north of Israel, Galilee, Samaria, which is called today the West Bank. And that's where Samaritans were from. They were the half-breeds who were never quite as kosher as the Judeans. And when you see the bad Samaritan of the woman at the well in John 4, or even the story of the good Samaritan, how could you have a good Samaritan? Don't you know they're all half-breeds? Once you do that, then you disregard somebody. So the Samaritans were these conflated, la mezcla, of those two, right? The Assyrians and the northern tribes. Now, every 50 years, the Jewish people would reconfigure. Whoops, I'll turn it this way. By the way, that's empty because we're packing, because we're moving. Just a couple kilometers away. So everything is empty, and bookcases are empty, and this is fun to be in boxes for a few days, and then it will be fun. Yeah. So 722 BC, that's what happened.
Samaritans, yeah.
Then in 586 BC, the Babylonian captivity took the rest of the Jews from the south over to Babylon, and then they came back for 50 BC or so and rebuilt the temple, Ezra, Nehemiah, etc. All right, so now we've got these people who've traveled, who've come back, but not everybody came back. And that's why we have Daniel, that's why we have Esther over in Persia. There are Jews who are there. Those would be what later become known as Sephardi Jews. So everybody in what might be nicknamed the 1040 window, that was a big buzz term about a geographical latitude, longitude, latitude thing some years ago, would be Sephardi. So you get Spanish, Greek, Moroccan, Indian, Indonesian Jews, right, who've come. Okay. Even some who are here. Isaacs was the great governor general, who wasn't so great, and the highest ranking Jew in Australian history as governor general. Isaacs, Abrams, Jacobs, all those names, very Sephardi names. All right. Sfard is the Yiddish word for Spanish. And so Sephardit is Spanish, Sfard is Spain, and so it makes sense. Ashkenaz is the term for Germany, Russia, Poland, the Northern European Jewish people, who were not just one people, they're subdivided as well, Eastern and Western Northern Europe. It's kind of fun to see it happen. Okay, so real quick, a fast history lesson. 1290, a lot of Jews are up in England, and all the Jews are kicked out of England in 1290. Sadly, just 75 years after the Magna Carta, where all men are equal. They go to Spain, and the 15th century in Spain is the Siglo de Oro. It's this most gorgeous, glorious golden century for the Jewish people, where our medical and cultural and poems and drama, I mean, just phenomenal production of life. Just think Jews of New York today who are generating stuff. And if you want to know, go to New York, that's where the Jews are. But that's where the Jews are making a difference in society. That's what it was 15th century Spain. But then you'll remember the general Torquemada.
The Catholics don't like them.
Catholics never like Jews. I'm
not a Catholic.
Entiendo. So, see, we're not leaving anybody out in the broadcast. We're talking to the Spaniards. We're letting them feel la parte.
Incluidos.
That's it. So the Jews under Torquemada were inquisited, were inquired, and that's the Inquisition, a horrible season of Jewish Catholic non-relationships. We even said, I've stood in Granada on La Avenida de los Reyes Católicos, and it's la más ancha calle that I'd ever seen. It's huge.
Yeah, very wide.
And now they don't call it the ceremonial kings, or, I mean, obviously it was a marriage of convenience between Catherine of Aragon and
absolutely, it was.
Yeah, it was terrible. But, marriage in those days was all about governance and not about love. Ferdinand, maybe he liked her. I don't know. But we call them Los Reyes Católicos. Why do we call them the Catholic kings? You see, so
did they change to Protestant? I don't know.
Well, they just wanted to solidify Catholicism. So here's a Jew in this golden century under the thumb of these Catholic kings. And then in 1492, not only does Columbus sail the ocean blue, but they kick us out of Spain, the Catholic kings. So here's a Jew trying to sort out, where do I go now? I can't go back north to England. So they become the Transmontani, and they cross over into Italy. Then they finally get chased out there. 1516, they are incarcerated in Venice, in the ghetto of Venice. That's an Italian word. And that's where the Jews had to live. You had to get in. It was like a 10-centimeter door, a gate. I've been there. I've stood in that ghetto. It's horrible to imagine that that's where we all had to live. So these are Catholic places. Yeah. And everywhere we go, Jews are being subjugated by Catholic kings, Catholic leaders, Catholic whatever. So then we make it north, and then we get into Germany and 18th century, 19th century. There are three 3.1 million Jews living in around Minsk in Belarus in 1880. It's phenomenal. We're doing great. And then they let us go. And by the time of 1938, there are 3.1 million Jews living in what we know today as Poland. But what we know today as Poland only has 100,000 Jews because 3 million were killed along with so many others. So these are the Ashkenaz Jews. Actually, when 1945 hit, or right before 1939, from 1881 to 1939, Jews were trying to get out and fled. My grandparents left Ukraine and came to the United States.
Oh, you're Ukrainian. Okay, yeah.
1912, 1914, that's when they came over. It was called Russia. They didn't call it Ukraine in those days. So on their passport, it said, on their entry visa, it said Russia. They came from Russia. But you look in Buenos Aires, and
I've been. It's the second most biggest population of Jews outside of Israel. That's what the tour guide said. But then I looked it up, and I think it's actually, but Buenos Aires is third, New York is second, and Buenos Aires is third.
Well, I think Paris wins much more so, but still, it's in the top five.
Okay.
It's in the top five.
Yeah.
No solo en once, sino en Rosario, en Mendoza, and muchos. Yeah, muchos. So
I love Buenos Aires.
The Argentinian Jew is not Spanish. The Argentinian Jew is Ashkenaz because they came from Poland and they came from Russia. They speak Spanish, but they are from the Ashkenaz tradition.
That's crazy. Do you know what I find interesting regarding the terms today? And I know these are not the same terms, so I won't get them confused, but Sephardic, Ashkenazi, these are the terms used today. Falasha, this is another term used for a particular type of Jew. But if we were to take them back to the brothers, Judah, Reuben, Benjamin, all the 12, would a Jew know where they come from? I know Jesus is of the line of Judah, but would a Jew today, so advanced into 2,000 years later, know which of the brothers they come from? It's just a funny thing I wonder about. I find that so fascinating.
Not one Jew today would know from what land-based tribe they come.
Yeah.
Levi, the third son of Jacob, was not land-based. He had no territory.
No, he didn't, yeah.
So his tribe was kind of given cities of refuge, and they were at the mercy of the other 11. Ephraim and Manasseh took over. The two sons of Joseph had a double blessing, so that there were 12 land-based tribes, if you will. Levi none, Joseph two. Okay. Does anyone know? Not a person. Why? I started to tell you this before. Every 50 years, Jews would reconfigure. But in 70 AD, when we were diasporaed, when we were dispersed, we no longer ever again reconfigured tribally. So if if the daughter of a Reubenite married a Simeonite boy, and then they sorted out, well, we need to reconfigure the tribe. Back in the days of Isaiah or Hosea, they could have done that. And every 50 years, the year of Jubilee, they would have sorted that. But since the dispersion in 70, nobody's done it because you can't do it because there's no land. So what does that say? That says that tribal identities are no longer. The only ones who know are the Levites, the Lewises, the Levites, and the Cohens or the Khans or the whatever. They're all from the Levitical tribe. So what does that beg the question? And you lace that question with it. Here's what I mean. The Bible says the Messiah has to come from the tribe of Judah. since nobody knows from what tribe they are, he had to come before the destruction of the temple when the records were destroyed. He had to come for verification purposes before 70 AD.
Okay. I had to think about that. Could you tell?
I could walk up today and say, hey, I'm from Judah. And we'd all say, yeah, sure. Sure you are. I mean, you could say that, but you had to verify it with the records, or at least your parents.
Oh, the oral history. Yeah. It's funny because when I think about Jewish people and how fascinated I've been by Jews in my whole life, among like a native, like there's plenty of heritages and cultures that I've been fascinated by, but the Jews are the most interesting because I've been raised a Christian. And so I mentioned him before, the filmmaker Simka Jacobovici did a documentary where he found the missing tribes, which I know you said a moment ago don't actually exist. But he went to, he said one of the tribes has been discovered. That was the amazing discovery of the Ethiopian people. And then they did these plane trips and they picked them up, and the majority of them are now in Israel. From what I hear, they're not happy, but I don't know how true that is.
Well, and they're happy. The Israelis were not happy with them. This was 1993 under Operation Solomon.
I meant after that. I mean, today they're not happy because they feel like they're not treated well because they're black.
Oh, they're not treated well. They're definitely second class.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's one. I don't know where that is. That might be. Someone said if they're from Kush, they'd be from.
They're Cushites. That's right.
They're Cushite. Yeah. So they're
because Cush was not a Jewish group.
No. Yeah. No, right. I know.
So where did they really come from?
Bathsheba
and marriage with the Queen of Sheba and Solomon.
Right.
In another marriage of convenience, as it was, to take over that realm. Solomon had the biggest realm of all the kings ever in Jewish history. And yeah, that was part of his growth activities, was to marry her. Hey, how many wives did he have? He had a fair few.
A lot, and like it was like 400 wives or something, and 600 concubines. That's
300 and 700, but that doesn't matter.
Oh, there you go. I apologize. Okay, matter. Yeah.
I was a math teacher. You got to forgive me. And those numbers.
You know what? I cannot math. I can history. I can politics. I can theologize. I cannot math. Those are things I can't do. But yeah. Yeah. But
that doesn't matter. So Solomon had this wife with the Queen of Sheba, and according to the story, every Falashan Jew, which by the way is a negative term.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
They can call themselves that, like a black person can call himself.
Okay. Anyone watching? I didn't mean it in a mean way. Yeah, yeah.
No, you didn't mean it. It's fine. But a Falashan is like saying a low life.
Oh. No, I don't think they're low lives. No. Okay. So what's the term now? Ethiopian Jew?
Ethiopian Jew. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So you have them in this documentary. They're just briefly mentioned. And then he goes to Tunisia. And in Tunisia, he finds the line that is all the priests. And then he talks about the Spanish Sephardic Jews and how they are, I guess, the Assyrians, which is what you said before, or as in Persians. And anyway, point is, he in his head, he's found all the Jews. There's even some in India, and they look Indian. They don't look like a typical, Barbra Streisand look or whatever.
They're called the name Manasseh, the children of Manasseh.
Yes,
it's a tribe. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's likely that few hundred or few thousand,
very little. Yeah.
Are related to some kind of activity. It could be that they came from Thomas, the great apostle of Jesus, who moved to and died in India preaching the gospel. It could be that his wife and he had little Indian-looking kids, and we don't know.
No, we don't. Yeah. So ethnically, it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish. What matters is your faith and your practice, or does the ethnic does that matter too, to keep and hold that, like for example, the Mayans, they're gone. That's sad. We don't have Mayans anymore. Have they continued to breed and not die out? We'd still have them. What is your opinion on it? Is the Jewish people, should they maintain that homogeneity, or is it more about culture and tradition? Or is the racial part important too?
There will be Jews when Jesus returns. That's yes. God's promise. So how that happens, whether it is from homogeneity or whether it is from conversion growth, I don't know. But my guess is that Jews will continue to marry Jews and have Jewish babies.
Of course, which is fine.
That will be where Jewish people are when Yeshua, Jesus, returns.
Because there are people who think they're Jews and they're not. Mormons are a great example. They do this weird spirit thing and, yes, you're from this. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. What do you think of that?
And they grab names like Abraham and Ezekiel and Daniel.
And Jebediah. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the Book of Mormon on Broadway. That was good. I mean, the Broadway show.
It was good, except for one song where they're like, one song was so blasphemous, I did not like it. But I liked the rest of it, minus that one song. Okay,
I'll try to remember. And if you want to learn more about the Book of Mormon, please call 1-800. Anyway, the people, it was funny, in 1939, nobody wanted to be a Jew. But now it's very popular to say, ooh, I've got Jewish heritage or something. Or my great-great-great-great-grandmother 7 times over lit candles on Friday night.
I wonder what that meant. Ooh, must be.
Toledo. And in Toledo, that's where the Moranos were. And the Moranos were the crypto Jews.
Cryptos, yeah.
Of the 15th century. And that's my familia. Mi abuela was one of those. And so I'm Jewish. And I think, really? You're going to go 500 years back and claim Jewish when for 500 years your familia has been completely Católica?
Exactly. I agree with you. I find that odd. And then when you look at their cemeteries, because this is in the documentary of Simca, these dead people have tombstones with flowers, and the flower is actually a representation of a camouflage of the Star of David. Anyway, and so that's, yeah. But I agree with you. It's like 500 years later. What's the point?
Right.
Yeah. We've hit the hour mark. I hope you're enjoying this discussion, because I certainly am.
Is it an hour?
It's been an hour now, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
An hour and 2 minutes. See, you're enjoying your time with me, and you didn't think you would, did ya? Did ya?
There was no gamble on this. I don't know that I ever said yes or no on that one.
Well, I found it really, really a lovely discussion. I've really enjoyed it, because I do enjoy history in general, and asking questions, and also coming up with things that I find unusual. Like I said about the Jewish dressing and the Catholic dressing, I find it unnecessary, but I didn't mean it in a disrespectful sense. Do you find that today that I don't know how to ask this without offending, but that today we're not allowed to criticize certain groups of people? Would you say that Jewish people might fall in that category, that they're maybe easily offended?
Jews love to criticize ourselves. The best Jewish jokes are about Jews, etc. But if a Gentile tells a Jewish joke, I say, "Who are you? What do you do? Why are you doing that?"
So it does bother you. It's like black people can only say the N-word. With me, only Latinos are allowed to say SPIC. Wouldn't bother me, to be honest. And I the second I tell someone I'm Colombian or half Colombian, they always make a cocaine joke. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't go, "Who are you?" because it doesn't bother me. But sorry, keep going.
Because you're high on coke. That's the reason it doesn't bother you.
Yeah, that's it. How'd you know?
He visitado. No, that it is the world of offense and tolerance. Offense and tolerance; those are massive words of the last 25 years that
Sadly.
are annoyingly present in conversations. So that now they have to rewind and look back at historical comedians and historical movies and say, oh, we can't show that anymore because look how racist it was.
That was my point. Yes.
Yeah.
That was my point. It's not just Jews, by the way. I just used that as an example because you happen to be Jewish. Blacks are doing it now. The Coon changed its name from Coon to Cheers. I forget. It was just a surname. Like, anyway, sorry, keep going.
It was a Canadian surname, that's right. But in America, a coon is a black person coming from the raccoon. And I wouldn't do that in a coon's age and that kind of thing. Or you want to blast a black person, you call him a coon. Yeah, and that's horrible. You want to.
Well, if an idiot wants to do that, let them get punched in the face. You can't censor language. Someone's stupid enough to do that. Let them be racist, and then someone will slap them across the face.
Language changes; it morphs over time, and
that's true. Queer now means queer.
Is what's the cause of the change of language? That's what people have to deal with. Is it offense? Why does gay, which meant happy in 1890, all of a sudden means something significantly different? Should we change every song that has the word gay in it?
Definitely not. But yes, exactly.
Look, I think we should be sensitive towards the other, and I think we should be kind towards the other.
To a point.
In all, I mean, we want to love one another. I think that you can't beat that. And using terms that will offend unnecessarily, if you can adjust it, then adjust it. If you can't,
agree.
Okay.
Only because, like, if I go up to a man and I say, hello, sir, and I don't know that he's about to transition to a female and that he's wearing makeup and I only see the back of his face, he goes, how dare you, I'm a miss. Like, it's like, no, you can't change your biology, you moron. Like, I'm going to treat everyone right because God calls me to treat everyone right. But I'm not going to delude myself for him. That's not fair. Go away. Like, just be normal. Like,
go to your colony.
Yeah, so for that reason, for that reason alone, I can't agree with you because we're being compelled to use language that doesn't fit reality and that makes us liars. No, I'm not going to do that. But what do you think? Would you say miss to a man transitioning to a woman?
I would say, what's your name? I'd like to call you by your name. And if they say Pat,
Sally,
Terry,
Pat,
I go, yo, bro. No, I just call them by name.
Yeah. Okay.
Avoid the gender relation, generally speaking.
Yeah. Well, so to answer the question, you don't feel like Jews are overly sensitive. You feel like they know how to tease themselves.
We know how to tease ourselves, but my goodness, we've got the Anti-Defamation League around the globe that is always observing and watching for anti-Jewish racist activity and enterprise. It's pretty easy when I was my wife and I were up at Port Macquarie in the middle of the pandemic last July, I guess.
Last year.
Yeah. I think it was school holiday July. And we're up by a beautiful beach and we're walking up the beach and there is a picnic bench, a bench, to look at the beautiful view of the ocean, to watch the whales, I guess.
Oh, beautiful.
And someone had painted graffiti on that bench. And it was 2 Jewish stars, one on each end. And then in the middle it said, COVID-19 is a scam-demic.
Okay.
It had Jewish stars on both ends.
So they were saying that it was caused by maybe they didn't mean Jews, they meant the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Maybe that's more what
they meant. Jews.
Okay.
They meant Jews.
Okay.
And I looked at that and thought, at Port Macquarie, I've got to find anti-Semitic stuff. I just thought,
what does that do to you? Does it actually do anything? Because I've seen plenty of racism towards Latin people. I don't really care. That's just me, and I know that as a Jew, you're very. It's a collectivist group of people because there's a lot of pride there. But when people are racist towards Latinos, I'm like, well, you can be racist. As I said to you before, be racist. Go ahead. See if someone ever slaps you across the face for your commentary or whatever. So for me, like, are you going to report that wall? Do you actually do anything?
I reported it that day.
Okay, because anti-Semitism isn't just Jewish people. Samaritans are a Semitic group. And then there's Druze.
The popular term anti-Semitism relates to Jews.
I know that. I do know that. I'm not.
That's how the term, because some terms morph, that has morphed. It came from Shem, the son of Noah. But by now, 21st century, anti-Semitism means being against Jewish people. Racially.
Yes, which is like dumb. Like, well, so what did well, of course it is. Like, there's you gain nothing from constantly pointing the finger and saying everything is their fault. Oh, everything, really? So all the globalists are Jewish. There's no black globalists. There's no white globalists. There's no Latino globalists. There's plenty of people in power who are evil who happen to not be Jewish.
All in favor, say aye. That's true. And
but the thing is, I think people think that the Jews deny that there are. It's like I'm pretty sure most Jews acknowledge that, yes, there are really rich Jews who are in power, but what do they have to do with the Jew who, goes to work every day, in the corner shop? Like, how do the two connect, minus the heritage, or like, how do they connect? Because I don't connect them. I don't collectivize. I do, but I don't.
No, there's no connection.
No, there isn't. And
in any society, between the rich and the very modest.
Yeah, exactly right. I think it's always, and at the moment, I find you said it's fashionable to be Jewish. At the moment, you're going to be persecuted more for being a Christian. Martin Isles is leading that conversation in this country. But in the Middle East, many nations, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Israel a little bit as well, but mostly other Muslim nations are persecuting Christians. It is a thing. In Israel, it's not a thing in the same way that it is there, but you aren't allowed to proselytize publicly. So
we are.
Christians can't proselytize.
We do it all the time.
Do you really?
Yep. Whoever told you can't has
I've been told by several different Jews. I've been told by several different Jews.
Well, here's the rule. You can't.
Okay, tell me.
Switch. You can't
say that again.
You can't bait and switch. You can't tell people to come to, like, think Salvation Army, come to our table, we'll feed you, and you can't leave till we preach to you. So if you're going to run a social program, if you've got an agency that has signed off saying, we will not proselytize, because they either ask you that or not, then you cannot use alluring devices to compel people to change religion. That's the law. You can't.
Oh, I was just told that Christians weren't allowed to proselytize, and that was that. David Chaivri, who lives in the Shomron, also confirmed that to me.
I don't know who that is. There are Christians who have signed an agreement with the government that they will not proselytize. A lot of social agencies, a lot of Jewish mission groups that say they won't evangelize. Well,
why do they do that? What's the point of signing? What's the point of that? If you can spread the gospel, shouldn't you? Why sign that? I don't get it.
They sign that because somebody misinformed them. And they've taken the idea of, I'll just slither in and serve them and work in their grocery stores or their old folks' homes, or work in the garden club or something, and then I'll have opportunity to be personal with a Jew, and then I'll share the gospel. Now, people do that. God bless them. That's fine. But in 1998, 99, Jews for Jesus got the Amutah, that's non-profit status, government approving, saying we can stay in country. And our charter started with, we exist to make the messiahship of Jesus an unavoidable issue to our Jewish people worldwide. I mean, you can't get more forthright than that. And we are there. Now, does that mean we can't give away food? No. Does that mean we can't help prostitutes? No. Does that mean we can't have social programs? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that we can conduct classes and evangelize and do such things with governmental recognition. They understand that's who we are.
Well, that's all right. Yeah, I wasn't aware that one could be that forthright. But I didn't mean to completely compare what the Middle East is doing to actual Christians as opposed to not being allowed to proselytize. Those are two kind of separate categories of
when you lose your head.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
totally different than keep your mouth closed.
Do you feel more of an affinity towards Christians now that you are a Jew for Jesus and acknowledge Jesus as Savior, or do you? I'm not saying that your allegiance is. You know what I'm trying to ask. So can you respond to the non-asked question?
Let you dig yourself out of that hole.
You want me to still ask it, or do you know what I'm trying to say?
Do I feel more related to Christians?
Well, yeah, now that ideologically, yes.
Well, the more has to be a comparison. So more to Christians than to Islamists, or more than I used to, or
to your initial ideology of Judaism. Do you feel more connected to Christians?
I'm going to heaven with Christians.
Yes.
So I suppose ontologically, I would say that. At the same time, my mishpacha is Jewish.
Yes.
I'm a Jew, and I guess that's the great dialectic. How do you have a family that's not going to heaven with you yet? Maybe that's why I'm a Jewish missionary, so that I can bring as many as I can into the family of faith. Maybe that's why I do what I do for a living.
Well, I think it's good that people have that special affection for their own. I'm not personally offended by it. As I said earlier, I don't really fully collectivize, but I understand doing it. But it seems to be a trend at the moment. It's okay for Black people to be pro-Black, Latinos to be pro-Latino. But when it's a white person who's pro-white, for some reason, automatically, we've been conditioned to think that's wrong, and I'm trying to uncondition it. Not that I'm saying supremacy is good. It isn't. No supremacy is good. All supremacy is evil. However, I don't have an issue. Like I said earlier, there are no Mayans anymore. That's sad. The Amazonians, the leftists, are trying to help them to stay homogenous. Yet, when it's a white European, it's not allowed. Do you have a thought on that? Because I find that kind of hypocritical, that it's not fair for them. And that's coming from the mouth of a Latina. Like, if I see that, don't other people of color see their hypocrisy? It's okay to be pro whatever they are, except for white people. White South African farmers are being murdered. Is that okay? Can they not commune and get together? Or is that racist? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
The difference between racial and racist.
That's my point. Exactly. Yeah, I want to hear what your response is. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's significant. Although today, I was talking with an Indonesian Chinese fellow who knows 0 words of Chinese because he lives in Australia. He knows 0 words in Indonesian.
Because he's Yeah.
because he's an Australian. So he's
Yeah.
2.0 or 2.5 or whatever the numbering goes.
Mm.
And it was fascinating. I said something that was um,
Chinese.
well, I said something because he said, "Do you know how old so and so is?" And I said, "Well, that's the thing about Asians. I can't ever figure out how old they are because
Yeah, great genes.
they all look gorgeous and young. And the 60-year-old guy I played golf with, I thought he was around 40, and and he was upset at me. He called me racist
That's not racist. That's silly. Not racist at all.
because I said something racial. And then I
Mm.
said, wait a
Gotcha.
minute, when I say that Chinese women like to keep a parasol up so that they don't get sun on their faces, that's wrong, because really it's mostly China. I'm sure there are other Asian communities that do it as well, but I see it among Chinese that I don't see among Latinas, and I certainly don't see among Los Anglos and Los Anglos.
Uh-huh.
In the US, I just don't see that. And he said, see, that's racist. And I said, I think it's racial, but not racist.
Agreed.
Because racial is just an identifying, like white men can't jump when we saw that basketball movie. But
yes,
that doesn't mean black guys can jump. It was just a funny thing how a racial identifier, redheaded people, now you're talking
don't have a
about,
soul.
yeah, redheaded people. Very interesting how that can become an antagonistic comment when it's just meant as an identifier. Doesn't mean anything.
Like, that's my point. Cocaine is not done by only Colombians, but like that's a stereotype. I think, okay, like it's a racial identifier. Jews, great with money. Many would say that's racist. It's not. I wish I was great with money. Like, I agree with you. Yeah, like it's silly, and that's my point exactly with the world today, and how that to a point I'm willing to be polite and go with the change of language. But yeah, yeah. So that's why I asked the question. So
When
you,
racial becomes racist is when we say Jews are good with money, which may or may not be true. But if, let's say, it is true, then it becomes racist when you say those Jews or those people have all the money, or those people won't share their money with us. And there's an us them view.
why there should be no sharing? This is not a socialist land; it's a meritocracy. But yes, I get your point.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So racial becomes racist when there's derogation.
For sure. So you're saying that you're even though you're not using the exact example that I used, you're saying that white people do have every right to be proud, and that it's racial and not racist for them to have pride in being what they are, because the rest of us.
I married a white girl. Should I
You're
have married
mishpucha.
somebody?
Isn't she Jewish?
No,
Oh,
she was raised Católica.
well, there you go. But your kids were raised Jewish. No,
Yeah.
Messianic. Okay, Jewish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Messianic. Yep.
Messianic. Yeah. Well, that's good, isn't it?
I thought so.
Yeah. And so how many languages do you speak? I mean, clearly Spanish is one of them.
There's British, there's English, American, and Australian. So right there's three.
But you read Hebrew?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, so your Hebrew must be relatively good. I don't know if it's like it sounds like a native, but you obviously have good Hebrew, and you speak conversational Spanish. I can tell.
Predico en español.
Muy bien, sí, con fluidez.
See, yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday at the zoo, I was talking to two ladies from España.
Of course.
And it was really fun. And I was eavesdropping on them, and I felt really bad that I was listening to them. And so I had to interrupt and tell them something about I don't remember what, hasidim somewhere, you know. I just had to let them know that I knew Spanish so that they weren't freaked out.
Yeah.
And we had quite a good conversation. Do you know where the tigers are? And I said, yeah, they're right around there. You know, that kind of thing. All in Spanish.
Yeah. Los tigres. That's good. All right. Well, I'll let you go. I really have enjoyed this discussion. I appreciate you not getting offended by my questions, because sometimes people feel like I tiptoe too much, but you seemed okay.
Tiptoeing is okay. Tromping
so.
may not be okay.
I don't think I'd do that anyway. I mean, unless I was really angry at the person on the other side. Of all the accents that you mentioned, British, Australian, and American, we'll end with that. So if you offend a group of people, we'll just let it that you've offended them. Who has the better accent, Aussies, Americans, or the Brits? Bearing in mind that the Brits, you drive down 10 kilometers, it already changes.
Even stupid British people sound intelligent because of their accent. You can't tell if they're smart or stupid because they sound so proper, you know. It's so good. People say, you don't sound Australian. I say, I don't want to sound Australian. I want to sound who I am. No, it's an identity. And this is the accent that news presenters learn in the United States so that they are not regionalized. You're not categorized. I'm not from the South. I'm not down in land Georgia, you know, we're deep in the heart of Texas.
The Bible Belt, yeah.
Bible Belt, yeah, you don't do that. And I'm not from New York, so I don't talk like New Yorker, you know. So, but this is the accent that they learn. It's the Midwestern accent, which is non-regional, even though it's regional.
There you go.
So I think this is the best.
So your one, the accent you have is the best. Jeez.
Best.
All right.
Yes.
I did, but I didn't think you'd respond with yourself as the answer.
Oh well. I've lost all credibility.
No, it's funny as. I will add your. Should I add the Jews for Jesus link below? This would you like that?
.org.au. You got to have the AU on everything.
For here, you do, yes. If you just do org, it won't lead you to the Australian branch.
No.
Is there a Jews?
There's Jews for Jesus around the globe. Mind you, who was the first Jew for Jesus? It was Mary.
Oh, he was married.
Yeah, I mean, she said, wait a minute, what's going to happen to me? And okay, my soul magnifies the Lord, you know, okay, whatever. I think she said whatever. I think that's what it was. So she was the first Jew for Jesus. And then there's Simeon and Anna with the Nunc Dimittis, you know. The shepherds were probably even Jews for Jesus. I mean, who else? They're not from Rome or anything. So I think that being a Jew for Jesus. Anyway, we're all over the globe. We're in Moscow and London and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. We're starting the Jerusalem branch. We started last year. Nice. I was privileged to work with them 3 years ago. It was great to get it kind of started. It's been great. New York, Los Angeles, we're all over the globe, Johannesburg.
We need Jews for Jesus. It's certainly a welcomed, but like everyone needs Jesus, but it's good that there are Jews who are coming to Christ. There's nothing more beautiful to me. One of my favorite pastors, his name is Ray Comfort. I don't think people realize he's half Jewish, but he's now. Oh yeah, you probably would have, but he's amazing, and I love how many people he seems to convert just in the little street talks. Like, I find that so special when someone has that ability. It's a good thing.
He's a busy man.
He is, yeah. I actually emailed him, and he was he watched my channel, and he saw some of my stuff, and he goes, "Look, I like what you're doing, but I'm sorry, I'm too busy." I got so annoyed. I'm like,
at least he watched it.
Yeah, it's true. And he actually responded. That's kind of nice too.
So there's your tag. There's your promotion video. Ray Comfort said, I've watched and I like what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly right.
There you go.
That's funny that Yeah. Well, thank you so, so much. I'm so glad you said yes to this interview. I got really angry at myself for losing the piece of paper at the church, and then I realized that I could find you on Facebook. And then all's well that ended well.
Or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube or Blogger. I've been
Oh, I didn't know
blogging.
you were on every platform. Yeah.
I'm all over the place, and
Jeez, you're doing better than the youngins.
yeah, they have a life.
I don't think that's true. I think what you're doing is far more important. I think the more Jews who are soldiers for the Lord, there's nothing better sounding to me than that. Like, and hopefully, it leads to a bigger ministry. And when the Lord comes, we'll all be happy together.
Hear, hear. Let's let it happen.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much. Glad
Thank
to
you
be
so
with
much.
you. And shalom to all your podcasterinos and the people. Your I don't know, what do you call them? Do you call them your
viewers? I just say viewers.
Your diatinos or diatinas or
yeah, that's what I call them, diatinos.
beautiful.
How about this? The diatribe. But I just thought of that then.
That would be a characterization that I don't know that you want.
No, I just thought of it then. All right, I'm going to end the broadcast now. And